Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the January 18th meeting of the Temple Terrace City Council. It's good to see everybody this evening. I'd like to remind you to please silence your electronic devices. And most importantly, that's us. And if you would, please stand and join me for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Lord, we ask your blessings upon our meeting tonight. Open our hearts and minds as we carry out the important work of self-governance. Help us always to defend and preserve our freedoms and honor all those who sacrificed for the cause of liberty. We thank you for the gift of community and for all the wonderful residents of our amazing city. We also thank you for our incredible employees who work so hard to make our city such a special place to live. We make this prayer tonight as one community where unity and diversity exist in harmony. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. So, our first item of business tonight is the approval of the January 4th council meeting minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion of the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays. The minutes are approved. Persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda. A 3-minute time limit is imposed on all comments from the public. We do ask that speakers come to the podium and provide their name and city of residence. And we like to assure all members of the public that your items are taken seriously by the city manager, the elected officials, and the directors in attendance, and your concerns are followed up on. Are there any members of the public who wish to provide comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. The next item is a second public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 1518, amending the election qualifying dates. I'll open the public hearing, and our city clerk, Cheryl Mooney, will explain.
So this is the second reading, and basically we're changing the dates so that it gives the state supervisor of election enough time to get the absentee ballots out to everyone.
Very good. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council members' questions? If there are none, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Administration and Elections, Article 2, Elections of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Temple Terrace, amending Section 2-27, qualifying period for the regular election of the City Council and/or Mayor, providing for severability of provisions, providing for codification, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. If the ordinance is acceptable, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve ordinance 1518, amending the election qualifying dates on the second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. The ordinance is adopted on second reading. Next item is the second public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 1520, amending Chapter 12, Section 12-768 of the Code, Tree Removal Regulations and Standards. I'll open the public hearing, and City Manager Charles Stevenson will explain. Good. Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you tonight is a second reading of an ordinance that amends Chapter 12, in particular Section 12-768 of our code entitled Tree Removal Regulation and Standards. What we had presented to council was the funds for the tree beautification fund that does not allow us to replace dead, dying, and sick trees here in town. It does provide for provisions for the replacement, purchase and installation of trees, but not for taking trees out. The amendment that we're looking to have council approve allows those funds to be used for the purpose of removing those dead trees as well as replacing that tree. At our first reading, council suggested that we put into the ordinance that a replacement tree shall be planted for each tree that is removed under this subsection. That has in fact been done, and we'll stand for questions on the ordinance amendment.
Good, thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council member questions. Council member Abel.
I have a question. First of all, thank you for adding the one-for-one replacement language in there. I was just unsure about what it meant when it says replacement trees shall meet the quality of standards in this code. And I was wondering what is the quality of standards in this code?
Well, we have a select number of species of trees that we do replacement trees. Certainly, we're not going to take a laurel oak that's been problematic and plant another laurel oak. On top of that, we have one for one. We actually specify the size of the tree so that any tree that we replace will be in compliance with those regulations that are in place right now.
So just to clarify, like a big tree like an oak wouldn't be replaced with a little tree like a crepe myrtle.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Council members, other questions? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Chapter 12 of the Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances, Land Development Code, Article 9, Design Standards and Development Criteria, Division 8, Tree Removal and Trimming, Section 12-768, Tree Removal Regulations and Standards relating to the city's Tree and Landscape Beautification Fund, providing for a severability clause, authority to codify, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If the ordinance is acceptable, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, a nay sign? No nays. The ordinance is adopted on second reading. Next item of business is the second public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 1521, amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances, Firefighter Pension and Retirement. We'll open the public hearing, and I've been given two names, so I'm not sure. Okay. Captain Chris D'Amico, who's Firefighter Pension Fund trustee, will provide a brief explanation.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council.
evening.
How are you doing?
Good, Chris.
Come before you today with the second reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances for the Firefighter Pension and Retirement. The City of Temple Terrace has created a retirement system for the firefighters employed by Temple Terrace to provide pension, death, and disability benefits. Changes to the plan include the following. We're amending trustee term limits. Drop language has been modified. Filing for disability within 30 days of termination, addition, and other minor modifications. These proposed changes do not have any cost to the plan or the city. The fire department staff and legal counsel recommends the city council adopt the proposed pension ordinance changes. And I'm here to answer any questions that the council may have regarding these changes.
Very good. Thank you, Captain. I see our Assistant Fire Chief is here. Chief, would you like to add anything? No, sir. Okay. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? If not, council members, questions? No. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Administration and Elections, Article 3, Officers and Employees, Division 3, Pensions and Retirement, Subdivision 4, Firefighters of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Temple Terrace, amending Section 2-198, Definitions, amending Section 2-200, Board of Trustees, amending Section 2-201, Finances and Fund Management, Establishment and Operation of Fund, amending Section 2-205, Deferred Retirement Option Program, DROP, amending Section 2-205.1 share account, amending Section 2-207 disability, providing for severability of provisions, providing for codification, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 1521 on second reading?
I move to approve ordinance 1521, amending Chapter 2 of the Code, Firefighter Pension and Retirement.
Second.
Not sure who was first. Councilmember Chambers got the second.
I got it.
Okay. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, a nay sign? No nays. Ordinance is adopted on second reading. Thank you both. That's a good problem to have when you're rushing to.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Captain. Next item is a resolution approving an employment agreement with the medical director. This is, okay. Assistant Chief Shane Sammons.
Yeah.
Your name was written in the margin, but I couldn't tell what it was attached to, so I'm sorry, Chief.
That's all right, that's all right. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Shane Salmon, Assistant Fire Chief. I'm before you presenting a resolution approving a 2-year contract agreement with Dr. Brooks Shepard to serve as the city's medical director. Section 401.265 of the Florida statute requires that all licensed advanced life support ALS providers have a current contract with a licensed medical director. Dr. Brooks Shepard began providing service to the fire department as our medical director in 2012. Dr. Shepard provides the necessary training, education, and medical direction the fire department requires to maintain the high-quality medical services we currently provide our citizens. Dr. Shepard consistently meets and exceeds what is expected of her by our agency. The proposed contract language is consistent as in the previous 2-year agreement, other than providing an increase in salary of 5% on October 1st, 2022. This increase would bring her to an annual salary of $34,730. The funds for this increase will be submitted in the proposed fiscal budget of 2022 through 2023. And the fire department staff recommends that the city council approve the 2-year agreement between Dr. Brooks Shepard and the City of Temple Terrace for the provision of medical director services. And as the assistant chief, I'll stand for any questions. In addition to that, we have our medical director here, Dr. Shepard, in the audience for any questions you may have as well. Not to mention she, if you guys would let her, would like to provide a small 2-minute brief COVID update.
Very good. Well, we'll save that till the end. So
Okay,
we.
sounds good.
Very good. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? If not, council member questions for the Assistant Chief? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the employment agreement with the medical director?
So moved.
Go ahead.
Vice Mayor Schisler,
I'll second that.
seconded by Councilmember Donahue. I got it right once. Very good. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. No nays. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Assistant Chief. Dr. Shepard, would you like to?
Yes, please.
Good evening, Doctor. It's always a pleasure. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Ross, City Council members, and City Manager Stevenson for asking me to give a brief update on COVID. As you know, we are in our 4th surge in this country, and typical of all the surges we've had in the past, we see cases rise, followed by hospitalizations, followed by deaths. And looking at the numbers, it looks like hopefully we're getting ready to peak if we have not already peaked in the state of Florida, which would be great. And we're hoping to see cases trending down moving forward. As far as hospitalizations, I can speak that every hospital in this county and region is incredibly busy right now. We're seeing record emergency department visits in all of our emergency departments. These are patients with COVID or COVID symptoms, but they're also patients with other ailments and injuries. And so if you have the unfortunate need to go to an emergency room right now, I would ask that you be incredibly patient. Because the staff is working tirelessly in conditions we've never worked in before, and we would just appreciate patience. As far as this surge, we have Omicron as the name of this variant that we're in right now, and thankfully While it is incredibly contagious and very easy to catch, it is much less deadly, which is really a blessing and kind of a trend for coronaviruses as they mutate, as this virus has mutated thousands of times, or excuse me, hundreds of times, which is typical of viral pandemics. We're now in a less virulent stage, which is great news considering how contagious it is. We are seeing patients who have been vaccinated and boosted who are getting COVID-19. Thankfully, though, the vaccinations are still holding fast and reducing risk of serious illness and death. Those that are passing away of COVID-19 are mostly very old or very immunocompromised. So vaccination and boosting is still in your best interest as far as protecting you from serious illness or death. I kind of think, this is my opinion, that we're kind of nearing the beginning of the end of this pandemic. Pandemics typically last 2 to 3 years. We're certainly getting into that third year. And so I'm hoping that this is the beginning of the end, and we'll see if we see any more surges, but hopefully not. COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 will just become part of our normal viral collection that we have every year. And just like H1N1 swine flu, if you remember from 2009, we still see that every year. And so we'll just continue to see this, but it'll just be less prevalent and hopefully continues to be less virulent and deadly. As far as vaccination and boosters, people ask me this question all the time. I don't know where we're headed with this. I think, boosting is going to be something we're going to be doing for a while, and maybe this will just turn out to be a yearly vaccine like the flu shot. So I'm hoping this turns out. Does anyone have any questions?
Council members?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
If you don't mind, I'll break with procedure here just a little bit because we have an unusual opportunity to have a very good doctor among us. Are there members in the gallery who might have any questions for Dr. Shepard? I will tell you that Dr. Shepard has been our medical advisor, which chief since 2012, right? Long before I came around, but I had the illustrious or dubious responsibility of being acting mayor at the outbreak of this. And I will tell you that Dr. Shepard was a tremendous asset to the city, far beyond the terms of her contract with our fire department in terms of providing advice and input and policy suggestions. And so we thank you so much for your effort that, like I said, way beyond the terms of your contract. So thank you very much.
Well, it's been a pleasure and an honor and continues to be. This is one of the kind of prides of my professional career, really, and I appreciate the opportunity to give back to the department as well as the city in which I live. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shepard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is a resolution approving a revised investment policy. Acting Supervisor Jamie, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this, I know. Jamie, how do you say the last name? Deavy. Acting Accounting Supervisor Jamie Deavy will explain. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Jamie Deavy, and I am the Accounting Supervisor in the Finance Department. I'm here today to present the revision of our City of Temple Terrace investment policy, which would codify the concept of investment changes of the policy going forward. There are a few reasons why we felt it necessary to go ahead and make this revision. First of all, we want to be in full compliance with the Florida Statute 218.415, and we wanted to go ahead and make it ADA compliant. We also wanted to change the percentage schedule to loosen the limits and untie our hands for the diversity without increasing any risk to the city. And we wanted to bring the policy up to date for the 2022 market, since our last policy was adopted in 2013. So first off, with the compliance, for the Florida Statute 218.415, there's a specific order that we have to follow. So we made sure that we had each of the subsections 1 through 15 included in our new policy and put in that order so that we were in compliance with the statute. And then with the percentage schedule, currently we are limited with the amount of local government investment pools that we are able to invest in, and we refer to these as LGIPs. These pools are very similar to money market funds, where the units are owned in the fund rather than in the underlying investments. Now, some examples that you guys may have heard of are Florida Prime, Florida Safe, Florida Class. Their primary objective is to provide safety, liquidity, transparency, and yield for Florida government entities. These qualifying pools also must comply with all applicable Florida statutory requirements. And the principal balance within one of these pools is subject to withdrawal at any time. This would allow us to invest our money safely with these higher yields, yet still maintain the liquidity that we might need from time to time. And due to our current percentage schedule, we have been paying more in fees with one of our investments, our Salem Trust with Goldman Sachs, than we were earning. And we would really like the flexibility to be able to change that. Now, for the 2022 market, clearly when we said that the policy was done in 2013, a lot has changed since then. So we'd like to just bring it up to date. The interest rates, as you know, right now are next to nothing. And the safest, most equitable changes for us to be able to invest in would be the U.S. agencies, the U.S. Treasury, and these government pools. By increasing the percentage that we can invest in these pools and these types of funds, we can place the city in a better standing until the market shifts again, which then we can always reevaluate the portfolio. You'll notice that there was a portfolio comparison attachment, and if you have it in front of you, we wanted to show what the old policy looked like versus what this new proposed policy would look like for us. In 2021, you'll notice that Goldman Sachs Trust was losing money each month. We were paying 4 basis points for admin fees, and we were only making about 1 to 2 basis points on that cash account. In late October, we went ahead and moved that money out of there and out of the money market, and we invested it in Florida Safe for $5.8 million. And so you'll notice that in the bottom section. We were able to make this change under the old policy guidelines. This allowed us to get rid of those high admin fees and to be able to make a little bit higher of a yield. However, when we did this, it maxed us on the percentage that we could then invest in pools, so we can no longer invest because we've reached our max. We would like to pull out another $2 million from the PNC money market and $6 million from the checking account, the PNC checking, and open up a Florida class. As of last week, when I talked with them again, they are paying between 11 to 22 basis points. It depends on the liquidity, which one that you would be getting. And the new proposed schedule, if you'll see at the bottom, is heavily with the LGIPs. For this market, it's really the best option for the city, and we can always make a change if the market changes. So in summary, with the policy, we changed the order to make sure it's compliant with the statute. We changed the percentage schedule of the investments to reduce the present constraint in our investment options. And we've updated the policy to allow for flexibility with the market changes. This way we won't have to need to constantly revise the policy. And along with these quarterly financials that are given to the city manager, he will start to receive the quarterly reports on the investments and then any change that is made to the portfolio. In conclusion, this is a revised policy. Staff recommends adoption, and I stand before you for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Deavy. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council member questions. Vice Mayor Schisler.
Yes. Thank you. Good presentation. Thank you very much. I did have one question. Early in your presentation, you talked about liquidity. I noticed in this comparison chart with the significant reclass of monies coming out of PNC checking, that's where we do all of our bill paying and so forth. Given our burn rate of cash in paying our bills and so forth, is when you say the liquidity is quick, I mean, we don't run any risk of any kind of cash crunches in moving between the two accounts. It's as good as instant, correct?
Correct, next day.
Good, excellent, thank you. That's all the question I have.
Council member questions? I have a couple. Just, if you could help me, I'm probably not the only one, but help me understand how this works internally, because I sit on the pension boards for the police and the fire. And I know that we meet quarterly, and those funds have financial advisors that come in, their own legal staff and their own financial people that come in and they advise us, you know, what's good, what they think is gonna be good over the next quarter or the next year. And there's similar amounts of money to, now the issues are different. Their burn rate is very predictable and they perhaps don't have the need for it to be quite as liquid. But how does that work here in the city? Who manages this and how often do you guys look at this? Is this something that you look at every day or every week and who does that?
Well, the finance department does handle it. The finance director is in charge of it, and she has me looking over it as well. So we have been jointly reviewing over it, and we actually reached out and was getting some assistance on different pools or investment options that we can go into. And that's how we were kind of found where the highest rates are right now and what would be best for the city with its liquidity needs.
So how much time is dedicated to this as opposed to the other duties of the finance department?
I don't have a number for you, but I could get that
Well, I
information.
mean, okay. All right. Do we seek any kind of advice or is this just expertise that you guys have in-house or?
Well, we all, are very used to working with investments, but yes, we did seek out some personal or professional advice, and we had a firm come over and help us out.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just have one.
Sure.
In the Goldman Sachs, that you said we were actually paying more than we were earning. Has this been going on for more than 1 year?
It seems that it has been. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is this something, do we get reports on this?
No, sir, we have not been getting reports on this, but that's one of the things that Ms. Stevie alluded to in her presentation was that we're gonna start getting quarterly reports on what we're doing with all this, and we can certainly share that with council, same time we give you guys a quarterly financial.
Yeah, okay.
I've asked for that to happen here moving forward so that we have some indication of what we're doing on a quarterly basis, rather than 6 years,
Right,
6 years.
Right, right. Now, I understand that our yields may be different than your personal IRA or the pension funds because we have different needs. We need to be able to touch this money tomorrow. We can't put it in anything that's gonna tie it up, So I think we understand.
Yeah, and I think it's, it's really incumbent on your finance department to look at this. It's not difficult to pick up the phone and say, what's my yield gonna be? And what my interest rates are and what's my earnings, so, to some of these investment companies. So,
Right.
again, I think if we take a look at this on a quarterly basis, I think we'll be a lot better off moving forward.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, just reminding council that this is an issue that came up during budget time, during the budget review. And, finance recognizing that the age of the existing ordinance and policy, as well as the factors within the marketplace right now, this is why they wanted to bring it forward for us to review. And it's wrapped up into the budget itself, so it will be a revenue generator as opposed to a cost account, a cost area.
But are these forecasted incomes from this investment incorporated into the budget? Do we anticipate, okay, we're gonna make, I don't know, pick a number, $1 million, and is that $1 million in the budget?
Do not believe so.
No, it was not hard-coded in.
No.
Okay.
It was not hardwired, so anything could be found money.
Okay. Other questions? Very good. I've asked so many questions, I've lost my place. Is there a motion to approve the revised investment policy?
I move to approve the revised investment policy 2022 as presented.
Motion seconded by Councilmember Abel, or is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays. Thank you very much, Ms. Stevie. Next time I will know your last name.
Thank you.
Next item is a resolution approving fiscal year 2021-2022 budget adjustments. Director of Budget Management Jim Ingram will explain. Good evening, Mr. Ingram.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Good to see everyone.
Good to see you.
I'm here to present a resolution approving fiscal year 2021-22 budget adjustments. Staff recommends that council adopt a resolution approving adjustments to the fiscal year 2022 budget for appropriating and allocating funds for projects funded and appropriated in fiscal year 2021, but not received or completed in fiscal year 2021. The City of Temple Terrace requires that appropriations expire on the last day of the fiscal year in which they were approved. If item is not fully received or project completed by the end of the fiscal year, any balances on expired appropriations must be added to the following fiscal year budget, if not already included. And those budget adjustments must be approved by council resolution. A total amount of $1,484,420.94 appropriated in the fiscal year 2021 budget was not received or completed by September 30th, 21, nor was any of this amount appropriated through the adopted fiscal year 2022 budget. I have an attached list details each item project not received or completed, the purchase order date and number, the vendor name, the GL account, description of item or project, amount that needs to be adjusted to the fiscal year 22 budget, and the current status of the item project. And you'll see on that list, some have already been completed, but not until this fiscal year. The list breaks out each fund, and the required amount to be adjusted to the fiscal year 22 budget is as follows. General Fund, $461,212.43. Street Improvement Fund, $229,704.92. The Community Investment Fund, $47,218.20. Water and Sewer Utility Fund, $267,947.27. Renewal and Replacement of Water and Sewer, $474,812.62. And the Sewer Improvement Fund, $3,525.50. Staff has made a concerted effort to reduce the amount of budget adjustments required each year. For instance, this year, as stated, $1,484,420. That compares to last year, 2021, we came forward with $2,813,473. And 2 years ago, it was $4,712,959. I think a lot of that speaks to the Public Works Department getting projects done, some of these big ticket items that, with lack of staff, there was some difficulty, but that is showing how this is improving greatly. This also fulfills our strategic connection, goal number 10, objective 10D, that is to secure necessary department financing to achieve long-term sustainability. And I can take any questions if you have them. I'll be glad to handle that.
Good, thank you, Mr. Ingram. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council member questions.
I do have a question.
Council member
I just want to
Donahue.
make sure I understand that this is now coming out of our reserves.
Yes,
You didn't budget it going forward.
that's right. Now, the way it works, theoretically, you didn't spend that money in '21, so it didn't come out of reserves in '21.
Right.
And so your fund balance shouldn't really be affected by this.
Fund balance neutral.
Right, just so the public has some,
Point, that's why I asked that question.
yeah, just so the public has some understanding on this. And of course, Mr. Ingham, you can correct me if I say something wrong, but in basic terms, if you, in your household budget, you don't have a hard stop of September 30th. So if you ordered something in August and it didn't come in until November, you don't pay for it until November. In government, it's different. We have a hard stop on September 30th, and if we didn't receive the product in full, we can't pay for it. So if we get that product in November, we still have the money that we budgeted the previous year, but we can't spend it out of that without moving it into the current year. So it's what we do here, these budget adjustments are basically just taking money that was left over from last fiscal year and moving it into this fiscal year so that we can write the check. And so oftentimes people look at these, oh, they're doing a budget adjustment, they must have made a mistake. No, this is a normal course of doing business in government, particularly with the larger projects like public works that often take 6, 8 months, sometimes over a year to complete. It's impossible to do this work before the close of the fiscal year in which you budgeted the money. So a budget adjustment is an expected and normal part of government operations. It's not doesn't represent any kind of goof up or anything. In fact, the more you have of these, it signals that we are getting a lot of things done. A lot of these big capital projects that take a long time are getting done. So this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. It's good for us. It's probably a pain in your neck, but it's a good thing for us.
That's correct. And just to go along with that point, if a project was completed on October 1st, we can't book that billing for whatever was completed in that term. We can't book it in September in the previous fiscal year. Our auditors won't let us do that. Believe me, they won't. So that's how the accounting works and why we have to do these adjustments.
Other questions, Council? City Manager Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a great explanation. But just to understand, these are not cost overruns either.
Right, right. Yeah, good point, yeah. Council members, other questions? Thank you, Mr. Ingram.
Thank you.
Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the budget adjustments?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Is there discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed with a nay sign. Okay, resolution is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Next item is a resolution approving SPR 22-01, the site plan review application for the creation of 4 single-family resident parcels and an out parcel to serve as a drainage easement and common open space. Senior Planner Gus Carpus will explain. Welcome, Mr. Carpus.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. So what we have tonight is a site plan application to create 4 single-family residential parcels and an out parcel at the property just off of, I'll show you next slide here, just north of Bush Boulevard and east of Overlook Drive. I'm sorry, west, my other east. The property is currently owned by Grow Financial. The applicant is Habitat for Humanity. Again, it's an unaddressed property. It's located within the downtown community redevelopment area. We recently rezoned this property to PD. Current zoning, actually, that's incorrect. The current zoning is PD. The future land use is downtown mixed use. The parcel size is 0.63 acres. Here's an aerial of the property showing the uses around it and a little table. Essentially, you got single family to the north. To the south, you have the Grow Financial. Again, this is a vacant lot owned by them currently that's just to the north. To the east, you have the Tampa Mall and the Dunkin' Donuts. And to the west, you have some residential uses and some more property owned by Grow Financial. So now I need to look at this because I cannot see that far. So on the conceptual site plan here, you will see that you have the 4 parcels and you have the tract A, which here we're on the table, we have a dimensional standards, and this is showing the minimum of each. So you have a minimum lot width of 48, a minimum lot depth of 106, minimum front yard setback being proposed for these lots of 35 feet, minimum side yard of 5 feet, minimum rear yard setback of 20 feet, and a minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet. That's going to be the minimum for each lot. Now, some of these vary, but that is the minimum. So here's the actual dimensions and what's being shown in terms of each individual lot. You see they do meet that requirement. The one thing I did add to the end there is the minimum required footprint area. That 1,250 square foot, that is our minimum buildable footprint, minimum building footprint that we permit in our ordinance, no matter what the development is. So that footprint area would be the minimum that they would be allowed to submit for a building permit. And so they do have the required buildable lot area for that to meet that requirement. And again, if you look at the lot dimensions, the length and the width, all of them are at least 48 and at least 106 106 foot in depth. Now, Lot E is actually Tract A. I got the conceptual site plan was changed and submitted later. The plan actually gives us 5 more feet of right-of-way along Overlook for a sidewalk, which was requested by the city engineer. So Lot E, that doesn't change the dimensions of any of the stuff that's in that table right now. They are still in compliance. And so that Tract A, which I have listed as Lot E in that table, is the out parcel, which will be for drainage and common open space. Now, this will be maintained by them. We have no access to this as a city. Here is the one model home that they did submit to me. I'm sure that you're going to probably put more than just one model on there, but this is a sample elevation. Again, they didn't give me the footprint area, so I was not able to let you know what the minimum footprint would be on that elevation or that model. So again, on November 16th, we did receive a zoning reclassification application for this property. We did rezone it to planned development to permit this development. At that time, they submitted a conceptual plan. Well, this is the site plan. At that time, they were proposing 5 single-family parcels. The council strongly suggested only 4. That's what they've come back with. The DRC did review this, and they did not have any issues with it. Again, I've spoke with the applicant that there will need to be some documentation regarding the maintenance and upkeep on that Tract A in terms of, because that is not going to be city maintained, and this is going to be homeowner association and all that other type of stuff. And it is going to be a lot that's also going to be used by Grow Financial for some of their drainage. So that all needs to be reviewed by our attorney at a later date. Staff did recommend approval I did recommend approval of the resolution for the application to permit the creation of the 4 single-family residential lots in the out parcel, or Tract A, as depicted on the site plan submitted to the city. And the applicants are here to answer any questions, and I stand to answer any questions also.
Thank you, Mr. Carpus. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? Seeing none, does the applicant wish to provide any information? Good evening, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you, you too. I have a few comments I'd like to present. As a housing and community development organization, Habitat for Humanity strives to be responsive to input from the community and to build in a spirit of partnership with the community. Indeed, Habitat for Humanity at its core is a partnership of volunteers from around the world and homeowners who work in partnership with volunteers and sponsors to build their own homes. At the November meeting, we observed that the community favored building 4 homes on the site rather than the 5 homes that we had originally proposed. At that time, I was concerned that reducing to 4 homes might require us to withdraw from Hillsborough County funding assistance that we had matched with the property. And I indicated to you that I plan to present a compelling argument for the 5 homes. However, I've since learned that reducing to 4 homes will work fine with the funding, so I do not have an argument for 5 homes tonight. Rather, I do suggest that the proposed development of 4 homes will be outstanding. I would like to note a few things. The original plat, which I think dates back more than 100 years, actually had 49-foot, right around 49-foot lots on this property. So in a way, we're actually returning to the original vision of the property. The front setbacks at 35 push the homes a little further back from the street than might be typical. We think for these homeowners being a little further from the Tampa Mall is just better. In the open space in the back will provide an opportunity for a drainage swale and recreation space for kids. We think it's a lot better that they play back there than on the front across from the Tampa Mall. Do you have questions for me?
I do not. Council members? Vice Mayor Schiffler?
I have general questions, not necessarily, well, the ones for you, I did notice, first of all, thank you for doing 4. That's a big help. But I noticed that the owner of the property is still Grow. Who's going to be, or who are they deeding the parcel A to, or Lot A?
We're actually we're purchasing the entire property, which
Okay.
includes the 4 building lots plus the Track A.
Okay.
And yeah, Track A actually will be a drainage swale, recreation space for the persons in the 4 homes who will have an HOA. We'll set up an HOA.
Set up an HOA.
Our attorney is working on those docs right now. And yeah, they actually will drain into the retention pond. There's a retention pond that Grow owns that the 4 homeowners will have the rights to drain into. That's part of our contract with Grow, and that's how the original engineer set it up with Swiftmud and calculated it so that water could drain from the site that we're purchasing into that drainage pond, detention pond that Grow currently owns to the west of our property. So the stormwater from the roofs of our 4 homes will drain through the swale and then into that pond. And our homeowners association, there will be a calculation, and our 4 homeowners who have an association will actually pay a fee to Grow quarterly or monthly, however it works out, for the maintenance of that pond. So that's just kind of all written in our agreement with Grow. We'll purchase the entire property from Grow. We're scheduled to purchase it in February.
Okay, good, thank you. Again, thank you for doing the 4.
Council members, other questions?
Oh, thank you, he answered my question, thank you, well said.
Gus, could you put the slide back up that shows the Tract A and the pond? Because I had a couple of questions. You answered some of it. I just want to get some clarification.
Let's see if we can get it bigger right there. Okay.
Well, is there a better one that shows Tract A in relationship to this pond?
Probably,
What's this?
let's see if I'm going to try to get the aerial. Yeah, it's,
So where's the pond?
In the city of Tampa.
the pond is in the city of Tampa. Let's see, do I have a pointer here? I don't know how to use the
Behind,
pointer.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm trying to get, in my mind, we don't have a good picture of this, so I'm trying to get an idea what this is going to look like. So Tract A will essentially be part of each of the 4 homes' backyard.
Correct.
There'll be, in other words, and you didn't have the survey out, you wouldn't know if you're on my side of the easement or their side of I mean, you wouldn't know. It's all part of your backyard. Well, that's what here we go. That's what I'm wondering. Will this barrier be between the part of their backyard they own and the easement? Or will the barrier be between the back of the easement and the pond? Or will there be 2 barriers?
So
That's what I'm curious about, because if there are two barriers, you've got a no man's land here that,
Yeah, yes, there may be two barriers. It's possible we put a 4-foot fence at the back of the homeowner's property, and then there would be that 29-foot section, 29 by, is that 100 and, 29 by, yeah, about almost 200 feet. There would be that recreation space. That would all be maintained by the homeowner association. So that's a part of the homeowner association's responsibility, will be to maintain that
when you
space.
say recreation, or you mean like a little park?
I mean, for kids to play soccer and, a grassy space for kids to play soccer. And
Because if there's a fence between their backyard and that space,
it'll be- if it-
nobody's gonna, I mean, they're not gonna maintain that. They're not gonna go over the fence to mow that grass.
They're not mowing it themselves.
They will have a contractor to maintain that space. That'll be a part of the homeowner association responsibility.
Okay. Okay. We're probably getting a little beyond the site plan, because I like it. I just, in my mind, I'm picturing this no man's land with two fences that becomes everybody pointing at each other that, nope, Grove's gotta maintain it, nope, that's yours, and nope, that's yours, and no, that's, in the meantime, you got 8 feet of weeds and rats and snakes and everything else, and that's what I just, that's the only part of this that I'm trying to nail down a little bit.
And that's where the document comes in prior to the building permits. Now, I got a better understanding now that this is only gonna contain the swale that's gonna carry the water to the drainage pond. So once we hit that document, it could be reviewed by our legal staff, and then that would be part of the approval and whatever submittal.
Yeah, that's fine, you'll work it out. You know what I'm trying to avoid, is it, yeah, okay. Thank you. Council members, other questions? Very good. If there are no other questions, is there a motion to approve SPR 22-01?
Move to approve? Please, go ahead.
Motion by Councilmember Abel,
Second.
and a second by Councilmember Chambers. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, a nay sign? No nays. Very good. Thank you and good luck. And thank you again for working with us on that. Appreciate that. Next item is a resolution approving SPR 22-7, which is a site plan review application for the construction of a 175,500 square foot warehouse facility located on the southern 15.07 acres of folio number 038218-0000. Senior Planner Gus Carpus will explain. Welcome back.
I am back. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Not to correct you, it's 2107. I'm sorry about that. That's a resolution approving 21 site plan review, SBR 2107, an application to construct a 175,500 square foot warehouse facility located on the southern 15.07 plus minus acres of folio number 0382180000. The owner is the Lovelace Family LP. Applicant is Half Associates Incorporated on behalf of Inlight Industrial. The subject property is located south of Harney Road, west of Industrial Lane, and north of the Harney Bypass Canal, and it's currently vacant. The current zoning is PD. See later, we did rezone this property. Also, a while back, future land use is community mixed use. Again, the size is a little over 15 acres. The adjacent uses to this property, vacant to the north, the canal and multifamily to the south. East are the light industrial uses in our industrial park, and west, single-family residential, and those are in unincorporated Hillsborough County. So here's the conceptual site plan, and that's the biggest I could get it for you. Again, the proposal is for a 175,500 square foot warehouse facility. This structure will be a shell that would be leased out as tenants move in. So as it's built, then tenants will look at the space. They will have to get city approval in terms of zoning approval from us before they could occupy it. So the footprint would be rectangular with a length of 780 foot running east to west and a depth of 225 feet running north to south. Will be 188 parking spaces, 175 are required based on the use. They will be located along the north and wrap around to the east of the structure. Along the south, there we go, along the south you'll have 41 trailer drops or trailer parking spaces. Let me get to the right one. And that's going to be to service the loading docks that you'll see as we go through the elevations here. And let's see, okay, the site will be accessed from Industrial Drive to the east. Okay, so looking at the elevations, on the north elevation, the facade will contain the public entry points in the middle and at each end of the structure. There'll be decorative parapets at each end, which will have a height of 42 feet 6 inches, but the majority of the structure, as you can see, will be 38 foot 1 inch. Looking at the south elevation, again, you will have a height of 38 foot 1 inch, and you do have limited access. I believe there's no public access to those doors back there, but there's your 48 loading docks, which will be serviced by those trucks coming in, and then you have those trailer parking spots across the aisle there. And then on the east-west elevations, again, there would be limited access to the structure from there. Decorative glass and parapets. Again, the height would be 38 foot 1 inch, and then you do have the decorative area there, which would be 42 foot 6 inches. Now, back in August, we did rezone this property to plan development from agricultural urban. At that time, when we, per our ordinance, rezone agricultural urban, the only district we can rezone it to is planned development, which is why we rezoned it that way. We didn't do light industrial because we weren't permitted to. The Development Review Committee has looked at this application and has no objections as submitted, or as the application was submitted, and they have agreed to pay the mobility and tree mitigation fees as established by staff. If I believe there's no tree mitigation because there's no trees. One thing that has come up on this site, and let me go back here. If you look, I want to say it's Industrial Lane down to Industrial Drive to Access is really in bad shape, but that is a county road. The county has looked at this and they have approved it. They have no issue with the development. They do have plans to resurface this at some point. They just don't have the time when they're going to do it. They are going to send in a crew to repair the potholes that are currently there the best they can, but at this time they have not scheduled it for resurfacing, but it is on their horizon. The city engineer had talked with them regarding that, but the county has taken a look at this and they had no issue with the proposal. And then again, staff recommended approval for the adoption of the resolution for the parcel, the development of 175,500 square foot warehouse facility as proposed. There are a number of people from the applicant here if you have any questions for them, but I'm here for questions if you have them for me.
Purpose, are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? Would the applicant like to provide comment? Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Isabel Albert with HAF. I'm here representing the applicant who's here, and we have the engineer of record who's also here. And I just want to introduce ourselves. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Very good, thank you. Council members, questions? Councilmember Abel.
When we first did the rezoning back in August, there was a resident from the neighborhood that's in the unincorporated county that asked a question about the view that they're going to have. And I was wondering if I'm not sure who to address this question to, but I don't know if we addressed that or if we've heard anything about the outcome of that request from them.
I do recall they had some questions about the site plan, how it was going to be laid out, and Mr. Carpus is actually the one who had the most contact with them, and it seemed to be satisfied at that time.
Initially, the plan called for the structure to be set back 25 foot, and then they were proposing, I believe, 50 foot. It was kind of a generic kind of a deal. Since then, and that's on the west side. Since then, they've pulled the building back, and they have the drive there, so they're further back, and the building has been dropped. So I haven't heard any concern regarding that. I did contact the people that did speak at that meeting, and I haven't heard anything after that. So
Did they not respond, or?
they did not respond, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Donahue?
I drove back there, and apparently you can't get there at this point. There's a dead end or something, right?
The road ends.
Right, okay, so I didn't drive over the potholes or whatever, but I was trying to figure out what was there, and if you haven't driven down there, you will be amazed at the work that's being done right in that one area. So that gives me the question is this warehouse a storage warehouse only, or will different things, I know you said different things will go in there. So like, what constitutes light industrial?
Hey, good evening. My name's Jeff Berryhill. Thanks for having me. I'm a partner at Enlight Real Estate Partners. Just to answer your question, light industrial use typically does involve storage in many cases, but a lot of times it's just small businesses operating out of that space, as opposed to any kind of heavy industrial that would be some kind of production-oriented use.
So you would have, let's say, an upholsterer in there, and that's why you have the public entry. So someplace like that, okay.
Yeah, so each the Tampa industrial market's kind of 30 to 50,000 square foot users. It's a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. The large ones go further out I-4 up I-75. And so for these size users, you typically have kind of a small office component where they're running their business out of the front of the shop, and they're bringing in goods, or they're operating out of the back of the shop.
Right. We've had one similar. It's very small compared to what you're building right on Temple Terrace Highway. And, I mean, there have been businesses that have been there, car repair, a whole variety of things. So it's in that general idea. So that's how you build it out according to what they're going to lease from you or buy from you, whatever. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, it's a shell building effectively right now.
So pretty much the hours of operation are 24/7, or you really?
Not in my experience. I mean, these are businesses that they're not typically work. It's not like a manufacturing facility where they're working multiple shifts.
Okay, it's not like Amazon, who's open.
That's right.
25/7, I think.
That's right.
Yes, somehow. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Councilmember Chambers.
Yes, and I have some questions about the west side also. The two retention ponds, Pond A and B, are they wet ponds?
Michael.
Good evening, Michael Sanders with Half Associates, an engineer of record for this. They are wet ponds, they are walled.
Okay, and it's hard for me to see on my documents. I see that there's a fence on the west side. But I can't read what it's made out of or anything. Do we know that yet?
Proposed to.
Is there a wall, fence?
PVC opaque.
Correct. The entire facility is secured, and there's chain link around the majority of the facility, but we are installing a 6-foot PVC opaque fence along the western side, which is required for a wall facility for safety.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councilmember, other questions? We have one of them we haven't had up, so somebody's got to ask another question.
I don't know, what's your specialty? Paint color? I don't know.
Are there other questions, Councilmember? Very good. Okay. If not, is there a motion to approve SPR 22-07?
I move to approve resolution SPR 21-07.
Second.
Good. I'm glad you got it right, because I got 22 here. Very good. Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays? Very good. Thank
Welcome to
you.
Temple Terrace.
Gus, stick around for a second.
Yep, sir.
So this is a little out of order, but, and maybe a little premature. The roads in the industrial park are bad.
Yes.
How much of that industrial park do we have? 40%, 30%?
Good question.
We own, or not we own.
Annex, yeah.
Within our city
in our-
limits, that whole industrial lane, that whole avenue is in city.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, I mean, the whole industrial park, we don't have all of it.
The whole industrial park, we probably have maybe 50% of.
Yeah. Why don't we make a pitch to get the other 50% and fix the roads?
Well, I'd rather have him fix the road and then make the pitch to him to get.
Yeah, I know, but maybe the bargaining chip is to fix the
Well,
roads.
one of the reasons that we never incorporated the roads in that 50% that we own is the substrate out there underneath the road is in bad shape.
Yeah, I
So
know,
it
but
would
that-
take a whole lot to fix those roads. I mean, a whole lot. You're talking about a bunch of excavation, not just reclamation, but excavation and putting fill back in, so.
Just food,
That's always been a topic, but we certainly have had the conversation about taking over the rest of it.
yeah, I know, that's what caught my attention when they said something about the roads. So one other item about this, I didn't want to hold up their vote, but am I not mistaken that all of this annexation was made possible through M&B Products and Dale McClellan annexing in his property? Isn't that what makes this contiguous?
That initiated the annexation out there, yes, sir.
That's what makes this industrial park contiguous to begin with, right, is going through M&B? And in fact, the Amazon property is contiguous via
Oh, Amazon now as well, yeah.
M&B also, so, and,
There is another small portion that is accessed off of 301 called Zamet. Less than a dozen properties in there, a dozen parcels that we're working on right now. But the county is working on some drainage issues out there before we incorporate that into the.
that's also contiguous via M&B Products. And so, if I'm not mistaken on this either, our current city manager, who may not have been city manager at that time, was instrumental in persuading M&B to annex into the city. So the only reason I mention this to the public is the next time you see one of the McClellan family, you might thank them for all the prosperity that's coming our way as a result of them annexing into the city years ago. And good job on your part to have the foresight to help that process along, because none of this would be happening if we didn't have M&B Products. So just, everybody remember that. Thank you, Mr. Purpose.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is a resolution approving a task work order for the Bonney Bray area water main relocation and replacement. Public Works Director Troy Tinch will explain. Somehow I think this is gonna cost money.
Unfortunately, they typically do.
Every time you come up here, it's cha-ching.
Yeah, it'd be nice if I was working the other way, but good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, Troy Tench, Public Works Utilities Director. I'm here this evening to seek approval to fund design of the Bonney Bray water main replacement project. If I could have you pull up figure 8I, please. So what we have, my apologies, I believe this has been, no, thanks for turning it off. So what we have here is Bonney Bray Park. The adjacent areas, you have Deer Park, you have Forest Park, you have Park Ridge, and Glen Ridge. So as with many other projects that we've recently brought forward regarding potable water, these are issues where we have the water mains located in the backyard of properties. And so what we're trying to do, as with the other projects, is pull those water mains to the front of the properties within the roadway right away. This makes it much easier for us to maintain. It also allows us to upgrade the existing water mains In this area, we have 2 and 4-inch water mains. We will be upgrading those all to 6-inch. So again, this adds additional capacity and touches on that life safety component. You know, if there's ever an event or a fire in those areas, it allows them to have more capacity with the fire hydrants. But it does not affect pressure, and I always like to say that because oftentimes residents get concerned that larger pipe means more pressure. It's the same pressure, it's the same PSI. It is just a larger delivery system. So again, it's more about capacity. It's also a lot about maintenance and allowing access for our staff. Right now, they have to go into the backyard to access the meter, to access the force main, the service lines. That's all in the backyards, and as you may know, if you've driven through this area, it's quite congested back there. So it's really kind of an opportunity for this. Again, pull that forward. This may sound very similar to other projects that we've worked on, again, within the city. Down in the southern part of the city or the peninsula area, we're currently working on St. Augustine Live Oak. That is a 3-phase project. Phase 1 has been designed and constructed. Phase 2 is under construction, and Phase 3 is under design. And we look to bring that construction forward before the end of this fiscal year. In addition, we have Bannock Burn. Bannock Burn is located on the, really kind of surrounded by the back 9 of the golf course. I kind of call it an island, if you will, because the golf course back 9 does surround it totally. And a very similar situation there where we're looking to move those rear yard easements forward, bring all those water lines forward. So this project kind of fits in well with that. And some preliminary discussions with staff, particularly the engineering department brought this up. Brian, he indicated, why don't we couple these projects together and make this one large project? You know, as you know, we have the American Relief Act funds that are becoming available, the ARPA funds. So this would be a great opportunity for us to kind of to merge these two areas because they're basically located adjacent to one another into one larger project that's going to give us a little more bang for the buck. It's also going to give us the opportunity to put a project out there that some of the larger firms would be more interested in, some of the larger construction firms, because now you're talking about maybe $3.5 to $4 million in construction costs. Now, again, this is down the road, and it would be something that we would need to seek final approval for. I will be bringing the ARPA work plan to you, the first meeting in February, and then give you guys the opportunity to kind of work through that, and we'll ultimately seek approval of that. I don't, again, want to get too far down the road on that, but it's just an idea that was brought forward that may actually be a benefit to the city to kind of merge these two projects together. The projects are being designed by the same design firm, so it would be a fairly seamless effort on that part. So again, kind of to go back to this, Bonney Bray looking to move those water mains from the backyard easements to the front yard. That said, staff recommends the City Council approve the expenditure of $175,516.42 for the design to relocate and replace water mains within the Bonney Bray area. The proposed work will be authorized as a task work order under the existing General Professional Services Agreement between the city and CPH Incorporated. Funding for this effort has been budgeted in the Water and Sewer Fund under account number 410-1922-533.63-32. I'll stand for questions if any.
Thank you, Mr. Tinter. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item?
They all left.
Seeing none, council member questions.
I do.
Councilmember Donahue.
I know that I'm going to be asked this question, so I'm asking it on live TV. There will be no costs to the homeowners, is that correct?
That is correct. As with the other projects, when we'll be going in, the project will include a plumber who will replumb the connection from their rear easement connection around to the front of their home.
Wow, that's huge.
And they will also be granted a 1-year guarantee on that plumbing. That's all as part of this, incorporated into the construction of the project. Again, this is the design element.
Vice Mayor Schisler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have, my question is along the same lines, or I have a couple of questions. With regards to the way that that's going to happen, did we have any kind of a public information program, if you will, to the affected residents before it gets started? I guess we're gonna be doing some field work with this.
Absolutely.
Maybe if we could get ahead of the curve on it. I know there was some chatter on social media as to, well, what's going on? Why we, what's doing? Who's going to pay for this? How are we going to do that? Maybe if we can get ahead of the curve and meet with the affected residents and just, have a meeting up at Lightfoot. And this is what's going to happen. You're going to see people. And then as it gets closer to the construction time, the same issue. That way that they can have their questions answered ahead of time and not be proactive with it, not reactive to it.
And we try and be very cognizant of the effect it will have on the citizenry. We hand out flyers to each individual home, door hangers, with a brief explanation of the project, as well as contact information. And the individuals that do have specific questions, we've met with them in the field on multiple occasions. In addition, we do have the social media outlet that we utilize as well. So we really try and get out in front of this. We don't want to surprise people with all of a sudden a contractor showing up and digging up their front yard to put in a new water line. But I think that's a great solution. We could potentially do like some sort of a meeting at Lightfoot, do like a town hall type meeting with all the residents that would be affected. I think that would be a great idea as we move towards construction, because it would be a larger portion of the city.
Well, and they're going to be doing some ground testing just based upon what was it PHC or
CPH.
Letter said, and what are they doing down the street? Okay, another question on that, if I may, is how do we handle construction inspection issues? For example, as you get into construction, is there, if there's a debate or an issue that comes up between the engineering firm and the construction, who handles that?
The engineer of record on our side would have the ultimate say. So what we would have is, say there was a question about the installation of the water main. Maybe they want to move it over a foot, or they want to try something a little bit different to avoid an existing utility. So we would meet out in the field, we would have a discussion about it, we would meet internally, and the ultimate say would be in this case, would be the engineer of record, who, and my apologies, would be from CPH.
Okay, that's my
Yes.
point. So CPH would be responsible for that going forward.
Yes.
Because they want to do 2 years, they would do both projects at once, and they will be the construction will be spread out over 2 years.
I would think construction could be completed within a year.
Oh, really?
365-day window. Understanding that the biggest issue that we face right now is not the actual construction effort. That may only be 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
It's material. Material is very hard to get a hold of right now. PVC is extremely hard to get a hold of because there's just shortages. Fittings are very hard to get a hold of. Different size, 8-inch pipe, 6-inch pipe are very high in demand right now. So it really more leans towards how long before they can get the material to actually do the project. And that's what we're seeing kind of hold up all of our projects right now. And it's only going to get worse as ARPA kicks in.
Yeah, how long do they think the CPH is going to take for the reports?
For the design of this project, we'll be looking at about a year. So if you recall, we issued notice to proceed for design on the Bannock burn about October of last year. So they've been at it for about 3 months now. So this project is a little bit smaller, so they could probably likely catch up with one another. So when we get ready to release it for construction, it will likely be the first of next year, and then we would go from that point. And again, I would think we could probably get things completed within about a year time frame.
That's good. Okay, cool. That's all I had questions. Thank you.
Other questions? Council members? Councilmember Chambers.
Yeah, I hope you know that you mentioned that the existing water pipes are 2-inch and 4-inch.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm assuming cast iron.
A lot of them are cast iron, yes. Some of them,
And replacing with 6-inch PVC.
yes.
Do you know the size of the pipes that have been put in down Glen Oaks?
That's part of the St. Augustine project, and I know we had a small section of 8-inch line that was going in association with that, but I can double check them and let you know. for sure.
They look pretty substantial.
Yeah,
And that's going to carry a lot more water at the same PSI.
yes, that's correct.
Okay. That's all.
So I believe they are 8, Councilman, but I will double check on that and I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions, council members? I have one. So this seems like it's right out of the ARPA book, water
Absolutely.
projects.
Absolutely.
So why can't we charge this $175,000?
Oh, we will likely also do the design. I now apologize for not mentioning that the design is also eligible, would be an eligible
Okay.
expense.
So we're gonna plug this into ARPA, in which case we won't have to spend, okay, got it.
Right.
That was my question. Good. Other questions?
Nope.
We're good.
Good answers.
If not, is there a motion to approve the task work order for the Bonney Bray area water main relocation and replacement project?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, a nay sign? No nays. Thank you, Mr. Tinch.
Are you leaving?
Thank you, sir.
Are
Yes.
you leaving after this?
No, I'm not.
You can't now.
No, I was gonna say something before you left now.
Next item on the agenda is a resolution approving the creation of the Temple Terrace Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I will explain, some time ago, and I probably should have renewed this discussion before putting it on the agenda, and I didn't. I probably should have gotten some updated approval from you. But some time ago, I asked the council's nod of approval of the idea of creating a bicycle pedestrian advisory committee. And the council agreed in concept, of course, not officially, without seeing some details on it, which is appropriate. And so some time has passed since then, because so many things have kind of come up that have demanded our attention, that it was, just didn't feel like the right time to take another thing on. However, with the assignment of committees tonight, I thought that this would be a good time to make this decision. I would like to do this. The only real burden, so to speak, would be on the clerk's staff, because somebody's got to now take the responsibility for noticing the meetings and taking minutes. The clerk assures me that, well, she did not exactly say it would be no problem. She complained a little bit about it, but ultimately she yielded and said that they could do it. This committee would not necessarily have to meet once a month. In fact, I've put it in there that they would meet bi-monthly, although I would rely on the council liaison and the committee members themselves to kind of provide some input on that, depending on how much they have to talk about. So if they need to meet monthly because there's a lot going on, they certainly can, but if bi-monthly is enough, they can certainly only, no reason to meet just for the sake of meeting, I guess is what I'm saying. This is not meant to be a regulatory meeting. The committee has no authority to speak to the TPO or to adopt positions on anything without our approval. It's also meant not to usurp the role of our appointee to the TPO's Bicycle Pedestrian Committee. This committee would largely stand to provide us advice from people in the bicycling and pedestrian community, people that walk and ride bikes a lot in our community, to provide input to things like our study that we just approved last council meeting on pedestrian crosswalks and those types of things. And so anyway, I'm asking for your support of this, and certainly willing to answer any questions that I can. I've intentionally left this somewhat open because I want the committee and the council liaison to have some flexibility in determining the kinds of things and some of the specifics of it. But the mission is clear in my mind, is just to provide us and our staff with concerns. I mean, I bike around the city, but not like some people bike around the city. You know, I don't bike down Fowler Avenue and between Temple Terrace and USF, and some people do that regularly. And as you know, we're working very hard to establish those links outside of Temple Terrace, bicycle links, and I certainly think it's worthwhile to capture input from the people who experienced that and to give us some good advice. So I'll be happy to, as they always say, stand for questions. I'll sit for questions if that's okay. Councilmember Chambers.
Yeah, will the committee members follow the same procedure being appointed? They would, the city clerk would advertise, and then they would send their applications in, and then we would vote like we do with the other boards?
Just like the other boards, no difference.
Thank you.
But when the idea, I'm glad you asked that, because when the idea was first floated to me some time ago about this, they said, oh, we should do a mayor's advisory council like some of the other mayors, and I didn't really want to do that because that's mayor-centric, and that cuts you guys out of it, and it just makes this committee different than the other committees, and this form of government's not about the mayor, it's about the council. So I wanted to do it this way instead of just doing a committee that's different than other committees.
Thank you.
I agree with it. Look forward to getting it established and get going.
So,
Didn't mean to cut you off.
That's right, that's right.
no, absolutely. I support it, absolutely, because we have people who send us regularly email messages and pictures and telling us whatever. Is there a way for us to, and I don't know if we can, do we do this? I mean, we have people who, well, I'm going to use myself, okay? I'm one of those people who volunteers for everything, okay? I shouldn't be on this. I, as a regular citizen, I should not apply for this because I don't have any, I hate to use skin in the game with bicycles, but you know what I mean. But that's who it needs to be, is people who actually bike in town, who ride their bikes, who put it on a bus and go someplace else and all those things. Is there a way for us to, other than just ourselves saying, look, we're going to go out and get those people to apply? I mean, is there a way to say that you basically have to be qualified to be on this thing?
I don't know how that would work. We can certainly put in the advertisement, like we do with the other positions, that it should be somebody with some knowledge and interest in one of the things in my studying for this, you know, I don't do anything without homework, and one of the things that I heard from a lot of different cities and mayors was that you have to be careful that the pedestrian aspect of this doesn't get swallowed up by the bike aspect. And that happens in a lot of cities where the biking community is so, well, they're more organized. People tend to ride in groups. They're more, you know, they're more vocal. And the first thing you know, what you have in reality is a bicycle advisory committee, and you don't really have.
I could join. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So we have to be careful as the appointees that we get the right people, and you know, just because somebody rides their bike every day doesn't mean that they're going to be a good committee member, and you know, we have to have the. You know,
And will we give them any kind of a budget?
to be just like the other committees. So that's code for no.
All right. Okay, I just had to ask.
Yeah. Councilmember Abel.
I'm really happy to see this too, and regarding the former vice mayor's point, I mean, Councilmember Donahue's point, that we're getting emails about this on a weekly basis. We just got one today. So I'm really glad that this is happening right now, so we can start this. And your point about the making sure that we don't leave pedestrians out of this is really important too, because there's just as many walkers, probably even more walkers than bicyclists, who want to be able to have a walkable city. And I think especially thinking about our downtown, that's one of our major goals, is to have a walkable community, and it has to be a safe walkable community. So I'm really happy to see this on the agenda, and I of course support it, as everybody else seems to as well.
Good. Well, while I have everybody in a good mood, is anybody willing to make a motion then?
Please.
I move to approve.
I second it.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, this is your one last time to balk. City Manager, you have any, I didn't publicly ask you for.
I'm sorry. I think it's a great idea.
I'm looking at the police chief. He's not shaking his head no, so.
Okay.
Yeah, they're okay, yeah.
All right. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays? Resolution is adopted. Thank you very much. I don't usually author resolutions myself, so. I have another out of order. We have one member of the public who missed the public comment portion of the meeting. And I normally don't like to stray from those rules because I'm always concerned about the next meeting and the next person that comes up and wants to. However, I only see two people in the gallery, and with your indulgence, I'm of a mind to allow her public comment of 3 minutes, if that's acceptable to everybody.
Please.
Ms. Tumbleson, I would like to remind everybody, though, that this is not the normal, so please try, the public comment is at the beginning of the meeting. Good evening, Ms. Tumbleson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm sorry I was late. Okay, this year has been a rough year. Well, last year was a rough year. This year is going to be great.
There you go.
Florida, yes. The Florida legislature is in session, as all people know. Bills of over 3,000 have been submitted. Yes, taxes, budget, redistricting, education are all on the table. The city of Temple Terrace also has their priorities. Please provide information from our representative with the city of Temple Terrace to anyone that asks, because we have a whole community out there that can talk to our representatives in the Senate and the House to assist the city. And I would like this to be a good year for us. Okay, please remember, information is valuable and powerful, and the residents can help with passing what y'all want, like the rental vacation, and anything else you would like to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tumbleson. Okay, we'll move on to council business. Is there any carryover council business? Councilmember Abel.
Not carryover, it should be a new business.
New business? Okay. Council business. Vice Mayor Schisler.
Yes. I know for Mr. Tench, I know I regularly bust chops on the sidewalk issue in South of Bullard, but I got to say that I've heard numerous compliments as to what was done, and I just wanted to publicly say thank you for getting all that done to you and Mr. Stevenson, because I know there were some really badly busted up sidewalks that are now walkable, particularly on West River Drive. And there was even people in wheelchairs who had to go out in the street to go around certain areas. So I just want to say good job, thank you very much, and you got some real happy citizens in that area as a result, residents as a result of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Other council business, carryover council business. Very well, new business. We'll do this first, and then we have other new business. I know the mayor appointments. As everybody, I think, knows, the mayor is responsible annually for appointing the city council members to serve as representatives on various city and Hillsborough County boards and state committees. This list seems to grow longer and longer all the time, to the point that I sometimes wonder if we spend more time with our committee and board appointments than we do actually council business. Sometimes it feels that way anyway. So I have made very minor changes. And I say that because I think that we have the right council members doing the right things, and I'm very pleased as your mayor of the work that you're doing in all of your different capacities. I get good feedback. I think you're effective, and I see no reason to make wholesale changes as long as you're willing to do this. So I have added actually somewhat considerably to Councilmember Abel's plate. I've asked her to take over the Cultural Assets Commission for me, and she's agreed to do that. And we also just gave her the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee too. So thank you for stepping up with more responsibility. And so if you'll look at this list, it's the same as last year, except the Cultural Assets Commission left me and went to Councilmember Abel, and we added the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee to Councilmember Abel. Other than that, there are no changes from last year. So I think I need a motion for
I do
you.
have one question.
Yes, please.
I see that I am going to serve as an alternate for the Affordable Housing Advisory Board. Do we have to go through that, Ms. Mooney, do we have to go through Hillsborough County for that? Or do you know?
I will find out.
Yeah, otherwise, you know, being an alternate means you just pay attention, just in case. So I'm absolutely willing to serve. I just want to make sure that if we have to let Hillsborough County know that we have an alternate.
Well, please, yeah, you guys get together and make sure that that's done. Now, next year, of course, this process is going to be
Very different.
very different, so, but right now, I could use a motion.
Oh, I move to approve the mayor's appointment list.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The nay sign. Thank you all for your willingness to do this. I dread the day that we get council members who say they're not going to do anything, because then I don't know what we're going to do. So, other new business, Councilmember Abel.
So regarding bike safety, which seems like the new topic today, we received an email today that I mentioned already. It was at about 4:30. I was wondering if any of you have seen it yet?
I don't think.
Well, to summarize, it's some people south of Bullard near River Hills who would very much like a sidewalk on Ferncliff because their kids all walk to school on that route, and they've had some complaints about traffic. It has been reported to the city engineer, who has done some research on it and has been communicating with them. But I'm curious about funding for sidewalks that have not been budgeted and what sort of means are in place for accelerating something like that, because, you know, waiting for these kids to be in the 6th grade and middle school, you know, is too long. So I'm just curious about that, and would like to get some answers.
Well, I can tell you the short version of that is that there are a variety of funding possibilities for sidewalks. One of them, of course, if we're fortunate enough to get grant funding like CDBG, but we wouldn't get it for that location. But CDBG works well for sidewalk projects west of 56th Street because those are qualifying census grids. But, you know, if money is freed up because of perhaps ARPA funding for another project, then we have city funds that can be reallocated. That money exists, we've budgeted it. It can then be turned into a different project. Other than that, we're gonna have to budget for it in the budget. Those are really that's the short answer. I mean, sure, there's some creative opportunities, but those are the short answers. And sidewalks come out of roads and streets, is that right? So that's an enterprise fund, correct? It is not?
No.
Okay,
Capital.
okay.
When I was growing up, a sidewalk was put on my street at the request of residents, and there was some sort of structure in place in my city that involved having the affected residents on the street actually have a tax levied on them in order to fund that. And I wasn't sure if Temple Terrace had anything like that in existence, or
Not that I've ever.
no.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you want to expound on this, city manager? Sidewalks in general?
Well, I mean, I'll just reiterate.
I'm sorry. I'll just reiterate what you said, Mr. Mayor, and that, you know, when we get these ARPA funds going, certainly there's going to be an excess of funds because now we can reallocate some money. So really the biggest part of sidewalk installation is getting everybody on a block to buy into it. All right. You have some people that don't want a sidewalk as well as people that do want a sidewalk. I'm not quite sure, there is again, a routine that we run through the police department and public works as far as a study on whether or not it's even applicable to put a sidewalk there. It's not as easy as just putting a sidewalk in the grassed area, because you got a lot of driveways you got to cross, you got a lot of mailboxes you have to contend with. There's a lot that you have to consider when you start looking at putting a sidewalk in a street. But I can tell you this, the biggest contention that we deal with is people that don't want a sidewalk. They will just flat out come and tell you, I don't want a sidewalk. So I'm not quite sure how to approach that, other than if you do just a citywide or again, maybe we can do it by zones and evaluate whether or not we want sidewalks in a community. Pleasant Terrace. People don't want sidewalks back in Pleasant Terrace. So if we were to propose a sidewalk in your neighborhood, I guarantee you that people will be an objection to it. So again, maybe what we need to do is look at certain sections of the city. West River, they love sidewalks down in West River, and they use them. But that's the biggest issue with trying to determine whether or not to put a sidewalk in.
I don't know if you were copied on the email from this particular group of parents off of Ferncliff, but I'll make sure I forward it to you so you can take a look at that one and get back to them.
Yeah, and I know that PD is working that situation, and we're trying to get some legitimate traffic counts, because the ones that we had come out were erroneous, obviously, but those are things that we're working through with the equipment calibrations and stuff like that, so that we can get some good numbers.
Thank you.
Councilmember Chambers.
Yeah, along with this, this is the same group of people that I reported on last meeting about wanting the mural, traffic calming mural. And I know the police have been talking with them. I'd like to get some kind of report. Of course, I can't ask for it myself, but if we do, because, yeah, I want to know things. Is it east of Glenarvan? I mean, what is the problem only on one side of that road? Is it also on Biltmore? Is the problem on Bellevue? Do we just need the sidewalk on Ferncliff? Do we need it on all this areas, or do we not need them? So I just need to know a bigger picture. I would like to see something of a bigger picture. I know this group of people have talked to our police many times, and I don't know the outcome of those talks, so.
So could somebody, when you have the data, there's no reason to have somebody come until you collect sufficient data, but after you've run this aground, could somebody keep us abreast of what's going on?
On Ferncliff in particular?
Yeah, well, I haven't read the email. I don't know if I didn't get it or if I haven't read it yet.
I don't know. It went to my junk email, so it might be.
Probably in your junk.
It might be. A lot of stuff goes to, okay.
We'll report back to you as soon as we get.
Yeah, because is this the same one that we got a few months ago?
I'm not sure.
This is
I think it was the same group, about the same road, Ferncliff, yes.
The mural.
okay.
Well, the mural, but also we got emails before that. We've got.
Yeah, this was a while back. We got
got
an
emails
email about a
before.
school, wanting it to be a school zone or a
Yes.
crossing or something. Because I remember driving down there when that email came out.
It's not clear to me, is it on both sides of the road, or is it just Ferncliff, or, that's what I mean. I would like to know more.
When I drove down there, I had a hard time envisioning much traffic on that road. When I drove down and I'm like, how many cars can go down this road?
Well, according to the email, there's quite a few.
Yeah. you'd be
Yeah, and
surprised people use roads.
that's what we're trying to establish.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a.
Well, people do cut through. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Council, I can honestly tell you this, I drive the back roads a lot, and there are people that cut through our city constantly to avoid Bush and 56th
Yeah,
or
yeah.
River Hills.
Right.
Those are one-time deals that we don't have an avenue to deal with that. We just don't.
No, but we do have an avenue to get good data. I mean, we have ways to get good.
Well, we do.
We
but
can get that
can't- yeah.
captured.
I mean, it's just difficult. But, we do have a lot of sidewalks that are available to the public. On Ferncliff, there's one on River Hills that can be used, but people choose not to use the one that's a block over. So I think that has some bearing here on this particular situation on Ferncliff. So
Okay. Well, if you
we're
could-
looking at it, and again, I think that we had some equipment issues that we're trying to resolve right now. So
Okay. Well, if we could get some information, because the worst thing that can happen for the public is they send a blast email out like that, and then they get, they get well, that's even worse, you're right. But the second worst thing that can happen is they get one answer from Councilmember Abel, and they get another thing from me, and they get another, that's terrible. We need to try to be on the same page.
well, I can assure you this one community or the one street has been approached with Public Works has approached them with the status of things, and so his PD has kind of kept up conversation.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
good,
So
good.
it hasn't dropped off the radar.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we'll get something back from you soon then. Thank you. Other new business, Councilmember Abel.
So, the boards that we have in the city are reflective of the times. And when I was first appointed to the Riverwatch Task Force, you came to a meeting and you gave me a lot of background about it. And you said the origin of the Riverwatch Task Force was in the water wars, when we had a drought period, and we had some issues with maintaining the Middle River, and competing demands from Tampa and Hillsborough County about the use of that area. And as time has changed, sometimes the demands of the boards have changed. And with these changes, I think that the Riverwatch Task Force has been very good at several things. And right now, its most relevant tasks are arranging cleanups, along with Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful, and making a representation at events so that they could educate people about stormwater and the types of things that, and cleanups and the types of things that they do. So I spoke with the chair of the Riverwatch Task Force, Carol Dell, and we were discussing reducing the number of meetings for the Riverwatch Task Force from monthly to quarterly. Because as it is now, the need for the Riverwatch Task Force isn't really water wars competing with the county or Tampa. So I think that I'd like to take that to council and see how you all feel about changing our number of meetings from 12 down to 4.
Council members? Well, I'll have to tell you, just my opinion, there's 5 of us up here. My opinion is if that's what you think we should do, then I will support your advice on the matter. And I would have a little more discussion if you were talking about dissolving it, but if you're talking about the meeting schedule, I rely on the council liaison and the chairperson of that board. And if you guys concur that it's appropriate to meet at certain intervals, unless there's some objection or reason for going against that recommendation, I would adopt your recommendation.
Yeah, before Councilmember Abel was the liaison, I was, and it seemed like they were searching for things to meet about. They've got a good plan and they do great work, but, a monthly could be a little much, so I could support that.
Vice Mayor Schisler.
I know we have school support, doesn't meet during the summertime because there's, really nothing we can do with anybody at that point. And likewise, like, when I was on the Board of Adjustment, did nothing come up, we didn't meet. So you guys, as a function of yourselves, your own administration of your committee, if you don't have anything to meet about, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It just, I think that, as the mayor said, do what you need to do to make it an effective board.
So I think, if I'm, and Mr. Stevenson or Madam Clerk, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this will require a rule change. Which I guess you come before us, would somebody put a rule in front of us and say, here's the rule change, and we would vote on it. If I were drafting the language, I think I would put regularly they would meet quarterly, but upon, need, they could meet
As called by the chair.
necessary, or as called by you, or as called by the chair, or whatever. Some language in there that doesn't pin you down. Is that what the next step is? A rule change, a rule revision?
I would have to read the let us get back with you on the procedure to run through that.
I've read the enabling ordinance, and I don't remember whether the ordinance has,
I don't either.
yeah, so it's gonna require either an ordinance revision or a rule change. Hopefully, it's a rule change. But either way, it's,
Yeah, let us, Mr. Mayor, let us do a little bit of homework and get back with you, and we'll certainly give councilperson.
yep, well, don't get back to me.
Abel.
That's the
Yeah, we'll get back
Councilmember
with her.
Abel, this is her.
With the process that needs to be followed.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if it's an ordinance change or a rule change, but if that's what you think. Other new business? I have a couple of real quick things, hopefully real quick. Habitat for Humanity has a CEO Build Day. I think I forwarded it to you. Habitat for Humanity of Hillsborough County's 2022 CEO Build is at Silvio Palms right here in Temple Terrace. And I thought, wow, what an opportunity. I don't know what your availability is. There are 4 shifts. They only want you to sign up for one, so you can't go being super council member here. But it's February 18th or 19th, morning or afternoon. I can't do the 19th. I'm already have another charity
I
event.
can't either.
Okay. I was hoping, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole you. If you have a conflict, you have a conflict. If you're willing and available, what a statement it would make if we could get our entire council and perhaps our staff, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot either, but some of our staff to take the morning or the afternoon of the 18th. I mean, what a show of support for a habitat project in our city. Just I mean, I would think the media would pick up on that, and it would just send a strong statement with the spiraling cost of homes and rent and everything else. I mean, there's not much we as a city council can do about that, but we can certainly show our support.
That's a major way to show support. Yeah.
Well, instead of it be just me one shift and you one shift, I mean, we're all probably gonna be there, but if you're available on the 18th in the morning,
Afternoon on the 18th.
you can do the afternoon of the 18th?
I could do,
I could do the morning if I have to, but, you know.
You can do the morning?
yeah, not afternoon.
You can do the morning if you have to.
Yeah.
You may have to.
Sorry.
Fine, I'll do it, I'll do it.
I can do either.
Good.
I'm good either.
Morning of the 18th? Morning of the 18th? Morning, I'm sorry, you're outvoted.
Is
Morning
what it
of the
is.
18th?
Okay.
Gil, we'll be happy to have you. If you, can you
I'll
make
be
it? I
there.
don't
No, I'll
want
be
you
there.
to.
No, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Okay.
Ross, did they give a specific time?
Yes, 7:30 to 11:30. There's lunch at 11:30 to 12:30.
Got it.
So 7:30 to 11:30.
Right. And then there are more invitations as part of that, but you sent that to everyone.
Yes, and I will call tomorrow. Don't go on there and register. I talked to them. I'll call and take care of that for all of us.
And find out how many of us they need before.
They're gonna need 5
But, right, they've
and
got 5,
6,
so,
or, I don't know if you can make it.
yeah.
but-
You don't want to say, let's take an army there if they only need.
No, I've already talked to her. They think it's wonderful that we're even going to the trouble to
Absolutely.
have this conversation,
Yes,
so.
and they apologized. They had a ribbon cutting on, a big one, on
A council
council
day, yeah.
night.
Yep.
And I kidded them. I said, what do you mean you don't know when we meet? You're here half the time.
So, we don't have to decide this tonight, but if we're gonna have a town hall meeting in February, we need to decide it pretty soon. Or if you wanna have a town hall meeting at all, and, because we can't just do that the following week. We gotta have a little lead-in time for staff, and I don't know what the topic would be.
And that's the problem to me, is when we don't have a topic, then we bring staff, we go to all this trouble, we show up, we're gonna show up, the 5 of us are gonna be there. City clerk's gonna be there, Mr. Stevens gonna be, we've got all these deputies, so let's come up with a topic. So what do we think that the citizens wanna talk about? I mean, maybe they wanna know how we're gonna spend the ARPA money. Doesn't that sound exciting to you? I don't know. I don't have any ideas as to what, other than, you know, I mean, they hear from us. I think we're really good about telling them what's going on as far as the downtown and those things. So I've been thinking about this just like you, because I'm trying to think of what do we need to talk about. Now, if you think that that could be the night that we talk about all these infrastructure projects that we've been doing, including answering questions about my backyard, my front yard, how's it gonna look, what are you gonna do, you gonna put grass back in, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's the subject.
I don't think we should, that
But-
should be a town hall meeting. I think that should be a meeting with staff and the residents that are
Agreed.
affected. I don't think we need a citywide town hall meeting about that.
Right.
I think we ought to be encouraged to talk with the community about the ARPA funds and provide with them our plan. Mr. Tinch is putting the final touches on some small revisions that him and I talked about last week on the ARPA funds and how we're going to spend that. I think that is some of those things that we probably need to share with the community. So you're talking about a topic, that would be a big topic. That's $13 million.
Have enough information to do it?
Maybe not yet.
You guys,
Well,
you guys give me a preferred date and we'll get it set up, but
well, why don't we, I don't, that's a big project. Why don't we set the town hall meeting after you get that established and we approve it and then we set the town hall?
I agree.
it'll work.
I agree.
Right, I don't want to artificially pick a date and now you're scrambling. This is,
Yeah.
you know, let's do the town hall then after you get this nailed down and we approve it. How's that?
That sounds
It
good.
won't be in February, but it'll be sometime in the near future.
Well, but it'll be the right information.
Reasonable?
Yeah.
Reasonable, thumbs up, good with you? Okay. One more thing, I promise I'll shut up. This is ARPA related. And so this leads into this very well. I know because you're working on this plan. I just read some updated guidance that was published by Treasury just this month, because they keep changing stuff. And you can't read the raw stuff because it's 8 million pages long. You're stuck reading their summary, which is, 4 pages, and I compress 8 million pages into 4. So you go from having too much to having not enough. I'm looking at the section where it talks about expanding broadband. And it's clear, well, it's not clear. It seems to at one point be talking about homes, expanding broadband capability into like rural areas where they don't have it. But then in another part, it seems to be talking about expanding broadband into public space. And my question for you, and I just read this, and you probably have to have a PhD in physics to understand it. But my question is, while you guys are working on this, is there a possibility that we can use ARPA funds to put public Wi-Fi in the CRA and in some of our major city parks? Because if we're trying to get people, I think you hit the nail on the head a couple meetings ago. Councilmember Abel said, we got to have public space down there, reason for people to come down there and walk around and stay. Well, it occurs to me, before I read this, it occurred to me that Wi-Fi could be a big part of that. If you have publicly available Wi-Fi. So is that something, well, first of all, that's something you even want them to look into?
We actually looked at doing that with the CARES Act money and ran out of time. But we can certainly look at that again with the ARPA funds, and it is unacceptable. We talked about, Ms. Cabrera and I had a conversation about putting 5G into our parks and whatnot. So there's some problems with that, but we never had any further conversations with Mr. Langfeld, who obviously you don't want people now hanging out in the parks and whatnot after hours,
Thought about that.
so that they can connect to Wi-Fi. So
You turn it off.
Well, that's what we're talking about doing. So, we can certainly look at, for some reason, we were trying to reconstruct what we had shared with council, back around budget time. And for some reason, we've come up with $1 million that we can't remember what we told you we were gonna do with it. And I'm thinking that it was to institute broadband in the parks, but
No, I
gonna
think
have
that was
to-
to connect Fire Station 2.
yeah, I'm gonna have to get,
That's what it was, because I remember thinking, why are we spending $1 million
Was it $1
to
million?
connect Fire Station 2, yeah.
It was a little bit over, wasn't it, about 1.2?
yeah, I don't know. I gotta get back into the minutes and kind of decide what,
I think it was connecting the fire station. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was.
yeah. I don't know. We've never really talked about doing fire station or facility with ARPA funds, but don't know. I'm gonna have to go back in the minutes and reconsider.
Anyway, is that something you want them to kind of look at?
I can tell you, as an event organizer in this town, I have to seek sponsorships to every event so that we can have Wi-Fi in the park. And it's pricey. Thank goodness they're willing to sponsor, the Wi-Fi company is willing to sponsor it, and they put it in, but basically you put it in for one day.
Right.
And so we have to go through this exercise over and over again. So it's definitely wanted out
We'll
there.
take $1 million from Mr. Tinch. I know he doesn't mind.
Well, it's part of our strategy to be a 21st century
Mm-hmm.
city too, be modern and connected and,
Yeah.
okay.
But we did some initial investigations about doing just that, Mr. Mayor. We'll let me revisit that with Sally, and then we'll get back with you. and let you
That's a good amenity to have on our list of amenities.
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah, well, we thought so too.
Okay. I promise I'm done. City manager's report.
I don't have anything, Mr. Mayor. I was gonna mention about the habitat, but you covered that, so.
Are we, how are we doing on our plans for the Centennial Committee planning? Is that still moving forward?
No, we just had that conversation last week, about, we're supposed to create logo and certainly a tagline and stuff like that, and I know that Lori is working on that, but, we need to get to the point of council selecting a representative, and that's the next step, so
Did we ever have the resolution?
I'm sorry?
Did we ever bring the resolution to council?
I don't think it's made it.
I don't
to
think
us.
we've done the resolution yet.
It got pulled off of an agenda
Resolution to do what?
to create.
We'll have to create the commission.
I thought we did.
I think we talked about it.
I thought we
I thought we actually, I think we adopted a resolution, if I'm not mistaken.
You and I are thinking
Huh?
the same way, and
I don't remember us
think
passing
we
it. We
did, didn't
talked about it,
Cheryl, I think you, okay.
I thought we did.
because we never got around to giving in names.
Correct.
Well, we haven't given you names, but I think you're right. I think we
I'm
did.
pretty sure we did a resolution that actually outlined the committee
Establish a centennial
and, okay.
on 11/3.
Okay.
We're,
Well, just let us know what you need from us and give us a little time to give you names if you need them by a certain
we'll
time.
put a little note in the Friday report.
Okay.
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 Anything else?
No, sir.
City attorney?
If there's room on the agenda at the next meeting, we're hoping to get the noise ordinance on for first reading. So I'm just saying that no? It won't fit?
It wasn't advertised.
Oh, okay. Well, then it'll be the meeting after that. But in the meantime, anybody who has anything that they want to say, I've received input from some of staff. I've received input from some of council. So this is your chance. If anybody else wants to say anything, if any member of the public wants to see the draft, they should, contact me, send me an email, call, and I'll be happy to email it to them so they can take a look at it too.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Shoshone. Anything else, council members? City manager, city attorney, staff? Good? Okay, we'll stand adjourned. Good night, everybody.